Hello, welcome to Truck Stop Murder True Crime Podcast. I am Gary Howard. How's everybody doing? Hopefully well. And if you're a return listener, thank you for coming back. If you're a new listener, let me tell you about what I do. I am an over-the-road truck driver. I travel all 48 states in the continental, excluding, of course, Alaska and Hawaii. That's why it's 48 and not 50. And during that time, I have to stay at truck stops like I am now, and or was I then. And for a 10-hour break, every 24 hours, I would take a 10-hour break. Doesn't matter when, as long as I do a 10-hour break or 30-minute breaks. And at that time, I had to stay at truck stops, rest areas sometimes, but truck stops mainly. And on this podcast, I'll talk about the truck stop, what there's to eat around there, what people think about it, and it could get kind of funny. Some of these entitled truck drivers who, including, yes, I'm a truck driver, but some of these guys just take it, their entitlement way too far. Why would you be traveling through there? And a murder that happened not too far from here. I try to stay within 50 miles. Sometimes murders don't happen. I try to stay close to the location. So, where does the road lead me today? Today brings me to Lufkin, Texas. Now, when I get to the main crime, I could have been anywhere, but this is where the individual got caught. And actually, the place I want to tell you where you could be going is I actually went there, and we stayed right behind this restaurant. We thought about eating there, but we ended up going somewhere else, which we regretted later. But we didn't know. If we knew at the time this individual was arrested there, we probably would have ate there. Just say we did. But we could have stayed at the hotel. Who knows? But yeah, we're from Lufkin, Texas. I stayed at the Pilot Travel Center, number 1023. It's off Highway 69, Loop 287 there in Lufkin. If you want to know the physical address, it's 1920 East Denman Avenue, Lufkin, Texas, 75901. So there you have it. Now, it's a 2.1 rating. It's 277 reviews. As of right now, as I record this, I think I'm not for sure, it's going on 6 o'clock there, I believe. It's going on 7 o'clock here. I'm in Michigan right now. And be ready for, I have an unsolved, a missing person case that'll come out soon. So, be prepared for that. Now, this says it has 47 spots with 7 paid. Some dude said it costs more, but I'll get into the reviews on that. But on the app, Trucker's Path, it says it's $18 to park. But if you fuel with Pilot, here's the thing about Pilot I like. If you fuel with them and you earn points, you can use your points to park. Something you cannot do at TA and Petro. They want your money, hungry bastards. They want your money. But yeah, there's 47 parks, 7 parking, overnight parking, 4 showers. Not much. So, say you're traveling through there and you want to get a bite to eat. Well, actually, you have a lot of options here if you want to eat. First, of course, the truck stop food you have there. You have the Lone Star Charlie's Family Restaurant that's in it. Moe's Southwest Grill, which is a Mexican place that has really good Mexican food. Probably, like I said, there's a Jack in the Box right there, which is a burger place. Cafe Del Rio, a Tex-Mex. So there you go. Angelino County's Farmers Market, so you get some fruits and vegetables. Also a Cajun place right there. Try to stay within a quarter mile of there, because that way it's close enough where if you do park your truck there, you can still walk. But then again, I don't know, some of these guys who clog up the fuel aisle don't even like walk 55-foot extra. So this is a quarter mile. The crawfish shop, so if you like some Cajun, you went there. Wade's barbecue, of course, you can't be in Texas without having some barbecue. Another place is Renfro's smoked sausage meats. Yum yum. My wife's favorite place to eat, Chicken Express. It's kind of like, well, they just do chicken, basically. Popeyes. There's another Popeyes KFC franchise, but they're a little bit different. And then from there, you have the Love's Travel Center. That's not too far. Subway and Olive Garden restaurant. And some people think it's gross, but I don't mind it once in a while. Buffalo Wild Wings. Mill Win Enterprise. I'm not for sure what it just says restaurant. And that's it. Finally, Buffalo Wild Wings. So you do have a selection. All of them say they're within a few thousand feet. I guess would that be on their quarter mile? They might be by the Love's truck stop. I don't know. I guess when I come back to Lufkin and I cover that Love's, because I have stayed at the Love truck stop as well. We'll talk about that. Now let's talk about what people think about this place. First right off the bat, I don't understand why he left a 1-star review asking a question. He just said, "Can someone tell me what the diesel price is?" Well, let's see. I can tell you right now it's $4.05. It says it right there on the trucker's path that he's looking at. He's doing all this shit. And wait till you hear the people bitch about the showers. I guess they do not. They're out of the 4 showers. They just can't keep them clean because it gets busy. Mods is good. Only 4 showers, always busy. That's a 4-star review. 1-star review. Restaurant don't look like they get clean. Restrooms don't look like they get clean. I got a shower and passed on the toilet. Wasn't clean. And previous user, yuck. That's what he said, yuck. Double explanation point. Okay, here you go. Back to the restrooms again. I don't know who this is. It's some different language. Restrooms are filthy dirty. Nobody cleaning them. Okay. Now there were a lot of 1-star reviews, and you'll see what they're. Here you go. Here's the guy. Nice people working on the inside, and only about 4 reserve spots left. By the way, it's $21.65. No, sir. I've never seen any of these reserve spots being an odd number like that. Here you go. Morando says, "Don't use showers and pray for my advice." Pray for his advice. I guess people are searching for him and need advice from him, so pray that he might come and give you his guidance. I guess I don't know. That's one. Pray for my advice. Okay, 2-star from Suburb. It has good amenities but dirty. Dust and grime around the feet of store displays, outside dumpsters, and overflowing grease collector are a gross presence in the middle of the lot. Shower I got was so obviously not clean. Pee on toilet seat and others. I don't know if I ever. I don't think I took a shower at this one. 3 more reviews is gonna be to what there's to do there. Been through a lot of states that is absolutely the worst pilot. Cigarette prices are wrong. Showers are showers. Wow, that's surprising. Showers are not clean. Food is cold. Another one. The showers are down. No water. Staff as usual. You get it in Texas. Okay. Last one. The worst. This is the worst pilot. Pump down. Complain, but no results. No, that is. I've been to a lot worse pilots than that. You go to some like your major city stuff like that. There's one in Gary, Indiana that's just ridiculous. I don't know if I think this is the employees there are just hanging out instead of working. But if you were in, why would you be going to Lufkin? Yeah, why would you be going to Lufkin, Gary? Tell me why. I'll tell you why. There's a museum there that I think there's probably all kinds of stuff. But the last time I traveled there with my family, we went to this museum and had to deal with dinosaurs and stuff like this. It's a small museum, but it's cool. Now I know I'm going to say this name wrong. I think it's maybe an Indian Native American name, Nirvana, Naranjo, and they have summer camp there, so you have your kids there calling for volunteers you can help. It's mainly like a lot of dinosaur stuff where they talk about that. The museum itself. Let's see, current exhibits right now are. I'm going through the website right now. The current exhibit of Never Museum are part of the permanent collections of Dr. Neil, I guess that's the Dr. Nirajo. The following are descriptions of the new exhibit. The Stratowall. Have you ever wondered how deep the earth fossils can be found? The Stratowall shows the different layers of stratum that are represented through the Earth's history. I need to tell Desiree about that. I bet you'll find that fascinating. Dig sites to find where the tools and equipment to find, basically to find what people do to find fossils, which I am there, dude. But there you go. They have all kinds of like prehistoric, different. It's a real cool place. You could go there. It's very, really inexpensive to go. It's a small museum. You have to spend all day there, and it's a small local place. So support your small local businesses. I guess you go to Chicago, go to the bigger ones, but this is nice. I like it. I think you will too. So let's talk about a murder. Well, murders that went all around the United States, but ended in Lufkin, Texas. Some of your true crime nerds might have knew about this guy, but I did not know about him until I really got into true crime. Like I said, it happened all around the United States, but his terror ended in Lufkin. It started in Alaska, where Alaska's vast frontier-like landscapes offer a unique way of life and sense of isolation for those who crave it. Beautiful but difficult terrain makes many areas of Alaska accessible only by plane. It can be ideal place to call home if you have something to hide. Twice the size of Texas, Alaska is the largest state in the Union, which is odd. It started in the largest and then in the second. Alaska likewise was the highest rate of has the highest rate of violent crimes in the nation, with over 75 villages having no law enforcement of their own. In many areas of the state, it can take days for law enforcement to reach you. Alaska too has the highest rate of serial murderers in the country. Anchorage is the largest city in Alaska, but is still a small community. Dotted around the city, numerous coffee kiosks offer warm comfort against the brutal cold and launch many of the current coffee trends making the way across the lower 48. So prevalent are the kiosks and coffee. The many residents feel Anchorage is the true home of coffee obsessed, not Seattle. So, and also my friend Adam Goodling lives there too with his family. So I bet you he be having coffee at some of these kiosks. Samantha Koenig, I hope I said that name. It's Koenig. Koenig worked at one of these kiosks called Common Grounds, located off Tudor Road. The 18-year-old Koenig was working the evening shift alone on February 1st, 2012, when her boyfriend arrived to pick her up around 8:30 p.m. His name has been released to his name has not been released to save his for his privacy. The kiosk was dark and eerie quiet. Samantha was not there. Unable to reach her on her cell phone, he drove to the home he shared with Samantha and Samantha's father, James. Samantha was not there. Neither he either he explained the situation to so he explained the situation to her father. At 11:24 that night, the boyfriend would receive a text message from Samantha's phone number indicating that she had a bad day and was going to spend a couple of days with girlfriends. She she said to tell her father and that she would be acting weird. Let me say said to tell her father that she would be acting weird, which I never understood what she meant by acting weird. But the message was unlike Samantha, unusual texting style. It just did not sound like her. By early hours of the next morning, Samantha's father was frantic. She was still not home, and no one could reach her, or any idea where she might be at. James contacted the owner of the Common Grounds, who was able to pull the surveillance video from the kiosk. They were shocked at what they had captured. The video showed Samantha working when a customer in a ski mask ordered a drink at around 8 p.m. It was bitterly cold and the ski mask was quite common. As he turned to serve the drink, Samantha jumped back and her hands up, clearly startled. The consumer had pulled a gun out on her. Quickly, she turned out the lights in the kiosk, nervously complying with the customer's demands. She emptied the cash register and safe, handing over the cash to the masked gunman. The customer jumped in through the window and left Samantha outside where they disappeared across the parking lot. James called the police, recognizing the seriousness of what had just occurred. Police quickly contacted the FBI to assist them as they scoured the area and canvassed local businesses. Another security camera had captured part of Samantha's abduction. They saw her being led to what appeared to be a 1999-2000 white Chevy truck. Unfortunately, several thousand trucks fit the same description locally. Samantha's father organized a search beginning at Common Grounds. Dozens of Samantha's friends and other stunned members of the community joined him and held a candlelight vigil. There's my reefer going on. They blanketed the area. And if you're not, when I say reefer, I don't know if you can pick it up. You might not be able to pick it up, but I'm hauling I work with a refrigerating company now, and you have to have a reefer unit, so you have to. It's like a refrigerator going on and off, and it's quite loud. Right now, I'm hauling chicken, so it has to stay in -10 in there. So if you heard that, I do apologize. Or if you didn't hear it, sorry for wasting your time with apologizing. But yeah, they blanketed the area with flyers, raised money for a reward, and waited 41,000. So quite a bit of money. 2.5 weeks later, the investigation has stalled when Samantha's boyfriend received a text from Samantha's phone. It read, Connor Park signed under pic of Albert H.C. Purdy. Now it said Purdy is Purty, like a hill. Purdy. Police and FBI raced to the park and found the sign with a memorial picture of Albert the Golden Doodle. Tacked behind it was a plastic bag containing a Polaroid picture and a ransom note. The photograph was fuzzy, showing a young woman next to a recent edition of the Anchorage Daily News. James Koenig identified this only daughter, but noted that she looked odd. The ransom demand 30,000 he placed in Samantha's bank account. That's what he wanted. Working with her family, they deposited a portion of the money. The bank flagged the account to alert law enforcement immediately should the account be accessed. Within a couple of days, there were 3 withdrawals made from the account from ATMs around Anchorage. Each time law enforcement was notified, and each time the kidnapper was gone by the time they arrived. ATM surveillance would show a carefully disguised man wearing dark glasses, a mask over his mouth and nose, and a hood over his head, so you can't see who it is. And being Alaska, of course, that's the norm. The account was not accessed again until March 7, 2012, when a withdrawal occurred in Arizona now. Then another in New Mexico. Then March 10th, another withdrawal was made in Humble, Texas. I'm going to call it Humble and Shepherd, Texas. It has an H there. And I'm going to, Small Town Murder did an episode on this where he went on, and because they'll say, because it has a H, it's Humble. And James Petrogal lost his mind. It says that's what it says. You all don't pick, grammar in the United States, but they just call it Humble. I don't know. And he is right. It is supposed to be Humble, but they call it Humble. And Shepherd, Texas, which I don't live too far from Shepherd. So each surveillance video showed a man wearing a mask, but police was unable to see the man was driving but let me see it again. Each surveillance video showed a man wearing a mask, but police was able to see the man was driving a white Ford Focus and was clearly traveling east. A bolo, be on the lookout, was made with a description of the car and the clothing of the masked man. On the morning of March 13, 2012, a Texas highway patrolman in Lufkin, Texas, where, like I told you, where I was at, Texas spotted a vehicle matching the description. When the car made a minor traffic infraction, he pulled the vehicle over. The rental car pulled into a parking lot of the Cotton Patch in Lufkin, that's the restaurant I was going to go. I would still go by there one day. And I do have videos of which I will try to put a video on my social media links of me driving by it. The patrolman questioned the driver and searched the car. Inside, he found clothing that matched the APB. The driver also had Samantha's debit card and her cell phone, but Samantha was not with him. So who is this guy? If you're a true crime nerd, you probably already figured out who I'm talking about. I am talking about Israel Keys. He was placed under arrest for using the stolen debit card. That's it. FBI was quickly on the scene. Keys asked to call his brother, who had Keys' daughter with him, but said nothing else. The 34-year-old Keys was extradited back to Alaska. When authorities searched his home, they found a white Chevrolet truck. Initially, Keys refused to answer any questions. However, a few hours later, Keys' defense attorney called FBI to say Keys was willing to talk if they met a few of his demands. He was a very controlling freak. He wanted to control every aspect of this. And so, but yeah, and you'll find out even what he wanted. Keys wanted a cigar, an Americano, and a peanut butter Snicker bar, which is good. I do like them. Put a little extra peanut butter on them. Be amazing. Satisfied with Keyes gave the FBI detailed confession. His description was so cold and graphic the FBI refused to release the full audio. Keyes confessed to having stalked out the Common Ground coffee kiosk for several days, planned to rob it, and if conditions allowed, kidnapped the barista working that night. It didn't matter whom. Keyes admitted that this was a risk to strike so close to his home. On February 1st, after leaving Common Grounds with Samantha, they fought back and she fought back and almost escaped. Keyes was able to subdue her and bound her with zip ties. He then drove around rural Alaska for several hours until he was certain his girlfriend and his daughter was asleep. Keyes kept the police scanner on to track any reports of Samantha's abduction. None came. Back at his home, Keyes placed her in a shed just outside his home that he had prepared the night before with ropes, a space heater, garbage bags, and a sleeping bag. He turned on the radio to cover up any noise Samantha might make. He told her he would kill her if she screamed. He demanded Samantha's debit card and her cell phone, but she had either on her in the shed. The phone, she explained, was still at Common Grounds, and her debit card was in her boyfriend's truck. So he had to go, told her where to find each one. So yeah, of course, he went looking for them. This could have been a big mistake, by the way. Keyes returned to the kiosk and retrieved Samantha's phone, which he used to text her boyfriend and the misleading message about Samantha going away for a few days in an effort to stall the police's involvement. When he bravely went to Samantha's house, opened her boyfriend's door to unlock the trunk, and stole her debit cards. While Keyes was rummaging through the truck, Samantha's boyfriend heard a noise outside. When he went to investigate, he saw a strange man walking from his truck. The boyfriend shouted at him. Again, I'm not going to say his name, or I don't know his name. Who then, or maybe I do. But yeah, who ran away. The boyfriend rushed inside to call for help, but the stranger was long gone. It would be weeks before anyone would learn of the significance of this incident. Keyes then went to the ATM to check that Samantha had given him the correct PIN and inquired her account balance before returning home. When he returned, Keyes said he poured himself a glass of bourbon and a small glass of red wine for Samantha, always being courteous. He allowed her to drink it before he continued. Throughout the night, Keyes raped and abused Samantha as his live-in girlfriend, his young daughter, slept just feet away from them inside the house. Keyes murdered Samantha by strangling her with a zip tie and stabbing her. It's suggested, though not confirmed publicly, that Keyes engaged in necrophilia with Samantha's body. Laughing to the FBI, Keyes stated that you have your monster. But the story was far from finished. In exchange for another Americano and Snickers bar, Keyes told the authorities where they could find Samantha. But he murdered her. After he murdered her, Keyes hung Samantha's body by the neck to assure that she was dead. Then he calmly went inside and showered. A few hours later, Keyes moved Samantha's body, wrapped in a tarp, and placed it inside a cabinet within the shed. He then woke his daughter for school and left for New Orleans. He would spend the next 2 weeks relaxing on a cruise around the Caribbean islands. His cruise over, Keyes drove through Texas for extra thrill. He decided to rob a bank in the small town of Azle, A-Z-L-E. But first he needed a diversion to draw local law enforcement away from the National Bank of Texas. Driving to nearby Aldeo, Keyes selected a home, burglarized it, and set it on fire. As the black smoke began to rise, he returned to Azle and robbed the bank. I know I'm probably saying that name wrong, but well, that's what it was. This is the only time I'm going to be talking about this town, so there you go, have it. And clearly getting away with robbing. He continued on to Houston to fly back home. Once he returned, Samantha's body had frozen. Keyes carefully thawed her out using a hairdryer for the next part of his twisted plan. That might take a long time. After having sex with the corpse, like I said, it's just no one knows for sure unless he said something to him. After having sex with her corpse once more, Keys carefully applied several layers of makeup to Samantha's face and fixed her hair. Some say he liked to fix his own, like the way he fixed his own daughter's hair. He then sewed Samantha's eyes open to make her appear alive. Placed a recent newspaper next to her keys to tuck the photo found. What can be taken? Placing a recent newspaper next to her. Keys tucked the photo found with the ransom demand, making it just a little blurry, conceal her Samantha's fate. Samantha had been dead for 2.5 weeks, but the freezing conditions in the shed helped preserve her body and slow decomposition. Once he had the ransom photo, Keys dismembered Samantha's body and found the area at Matanuska Lake, Matanuska Lake, where the water is at its greatest depth. Posing as an ice fisher, Keys disposed of Samantha's body piece by piece underneath the ice. He also caught several fish while there, which he took home to cook for his family. He then burnt everything within the shed, saving only Samantha's cell phone, driver's license, and debit card. Once police searched the area, Keys indicated and had to cut through the thick ice to get into the water. Using an underwater camera and team of divers, they quickly located Samantha's remains. Up until now, Samantha's family and friends had thought that she was still alive. They were devastated to learn that what she had endured. After disposing of Samantha, Keys and his daughter flew to Las Vegas and rented a car. They then began to drive to Texas, where he planned to attend his sister's wedding. He used Samantha's debit card along the way. That will be his fatal mistake and lead to his capture. Let me take a break in the story. Why would people? That's one thing that baffled me. Doing all these true crime stories. Why use their debit card? Do they not think that it's going to link them to it and they're going to track it? Everything's electronic. I mean, anything, or cell phones. Well, I guess no matter how smart you are, people do stupid things like this. But yeah, Keys also was too cold and casual discussing Samantha's murder. The FBI suspected she was not the only victim. When pressed, Keys was coy. He hinted at other murders and crimes, but he wouldn't confess without something in return. He would continue to fight for control of this interviews throughout the process. Like I said, he was a very big control freak. If he was not in charge of the situation, he was not talking, and it gave him, very much happiness, and that's what he got off on. Being control. Keys admitted that he was in control of the situation. The police was never in charge. He was always in charge, and he was only going to give them what he felt like he had to. But Keys admitted that he didn't care about his own name or reputation, but he was concerned for his daughter and his family. He wanted his name kept out of the media to protect them. This was the only time he expressed any concern or remorse related to his crimes, that his daughter might suffer because of what his father has done. How about these family members suffering by what he did? And it was more than just the woman in Alaska. I want her to have a chance to grow up and not have all this hanging over her head, explained Keys. He also said he did not want his daughter to one day type my name into a computer and have it pop up. Keys, well, obviously he did, because we're talking about him right now and you're listening to him. Keys also wanted the death penalty. He wanted an execution date before he would admit to any more of his crimes. Alaska does not have the death penalty. However, the federal government does, and there's certain regulation guidelines about that. But yeah, the FBI conceded that they may be open to the sentence, but his current known federal crimes does not merit the level of punishment. The smirking Keys didn't think this would be an issue once they knew the extent of his crimes. He really wanted to die. The FBI agreed to keep his name and the extent of his crimes quiet. Over the next several months, Keys slowly revealed his secret life. When he divulged to the authorities, would show him divulged to the authorities would show him to be one of the most cunning and methodical serial killers they had ever encountered, which just baffles me how I've never heard of him. A lot of people heard of John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, Eileen Wuornos, but it wasn't until I got into true crime that I found Israel Keys. So that's why I'm doing him right now. Plus, like I said, since I've been in Lufkin a lot, Israel Keys, let's talk about Israel Keys. He was born on January 7th, 1978, so a young guy in Richmond, Utah. He was the second of 10 children born in the devout Mormon family. When Israel was around 5 years old, his family moved to the isolated eastern area of Washington State, just outside of Colville, Washington. Keys was kept somewhat isolated from his peers. He was homeschooled and not allowed to participate in sports or other social activities outside of church. He had only a few friends. In Washington, the Keys family began to attend the ARC, known as Our Place Worship Fellowship, which posterized the racist and anti-Semitic Christian identity, basically just racist. The church is on the Southern Poverty Law Center's list of hate groups. The Keys would occasionally socialize with a neighbor family, the Kehos, who attended the same church. The Kehos would become infamous in their own right. They embraced a violent white supremacist viewpoint. Brother Chevy, I'm going to call him Chevy, Chevie, in Cheyenne, along with their father, will build arrest records that range from murder to theft, burglary to polygamy, and support their extreme Aryan anti-government ideology. So yeah, good support for young Israel Keys. Chevy was investigated in connection with the Oklahoma City bombing on April 19, 1995, which was Timothy McVeigh was convicted, executed, but police could not link these guys to it conclusively. Though it doesn't appear that Keys subscribed to these beliefs, he would, belong to the escrow religion as an adult. He was drawn to the violence of the church and his new friends exposed. Keys asserted to the FBI that he had violent fantasies and urges beginning at a young age. At 14 years old, Keys took a family cat into the woods with a couple boys around his age that were staying with his family. Keys tied the cat to a tree and shot it in the stomach. Keys said he laughed at the cat, struggling, trying to get away, but ultimately wrapping itself around the tree, tied her until it was dead. But when Keys turned around, I guess, he thought it was the approval of his friends, they were shocked and one was vomiting. This wasn't what normal kids did for fun. After all, he decided he needed to be more discreet. Throughout his teens, Keys' criminal activity escalated. He was torturing animals for entertainment. He also began breaking into homes and stealing guns, amassing a large cache of weapons. He was growing more interested in inflicting pain on others. He began studying serial killers and criminal profile books. He took note of their crimes, methods, and how they avoided detection, particularly why they got caught. Once Keys told his strict and devout parents that he was an atheist, they kicked him out of the house. He was around 17 years old at the time. He then moved to Maupin, Maupin, Oregon, where Keys confessed to the FBI he committed his first attempt to murder at the summer of 1997 or 1998. Keys explained he staked out a position beforehand near the Deschutes River and identified the best place to take a victim on a outhouse in the old outhouse abandoned in the woods. The river was a popular place for rafting and tubing. Then Keys waited for a victim. A group of young women were rafting on the river. When one of them became separated from the group, Keys grabbed her, took her to the outhouse, tied her up, and raped her. Keys admitted to the FBI that this was not his first rape, but it was the first victim he intended to kill. However, the woman did not fight him and instead started talking to him, getting inside his head. He lost his nerve and let her go. So, ladies, if anything ever happens, you just try to, I'm not saying it's 100%, but it worked for her. Start talking to him, be nice to him. But yeah, he was swearing to find her. He lost his nerve and let her go, but that was one of his regrets, swearing that he'd find her and kill her should she go to the police. If that's what if he, so, no records are found to indicate she ever told authorities, and she has never come forward. But Keyes was nervous and paranoid. He should have killed her, he thought. I was so timid, I wasn't violent enough. He told investigators, I made up my mind I was never going to let that happen again. After confession, Keyes clammed up. He wanted his death sentence guaranteed by the FBI, but the FBI needed more. Keyes asked for another Americana and another Snickers bar, another peanut butter. So the FBI and local law enforcement again agreed to Keyes' demands to keep his name out of the news. Keyes was adamant, leak it, and he would stop cooperating. They provided him with the various newspapers to assure him the promise was being kept. He said he would give them two more bodies, but needed a map of the Burlington area of Vermont. Keyes began explaining that he put together what he referred to as kill kits, which he buried at various places he had staked out around the country for future use. These kill kits contained guns with a silencer, ammunition, a flashlight, shovel, duct tape, rope, cash, various caustic chemicals, and other useful items. All the buried treasures a serial killer would need, restrain murder, and dispose of bodies, as well as destroy any evidence he might have left behind. Key stated that he thought he had at least 12 of these kill kits stashed in different areas. Often these kits would remain buried for years until Keyes needed them. Keyes did not have a specific victim type he that he hunted, which made it unusual. But these kill kits makes which start again. Keyes, sorry about that. Keyes did not have a specific victim type that he hunted, which makes him unusual. But these kill kits and the level of pre-planning he engaged in would be his signature. By choosing various types of victims and hiding his supplies in advance, Keyes was able to avoid detection. He would travel throughout without the tools of his crimes. He could attack at his leisure. There was nothing to link him to the crimes. One of these kits he buried near Burlington, Vermont in 2009. He would return for it in 2011, 2 years later. Yeah. On June 9, 2011, William, or Bill, and Lorraine Courier both failed to show up for their jobs. Concerned friends and family went to their homes and found that a window at the back of the house was broken and the phone lines had been cut. Their car was missing along with Lorraine's purse and their cell phones, with no sign of the couple. Police had no suspects, no body, and no clues. The case quickly grew cold until Israel Keyes got his coffee and candy in Alaska on April 2012. Keyes admitted he was bored in early June 2011. He decided it was time for another trip. Flying from Alaska to Chicago, Keyes rented a car and drove the nearly 1,000 miles to Vermont. He was careful to only use cash, and he removed the battery. Their reefer's off. Removed the battery from his cell phone so he could not easily be traced. He vacationed around Burlington area for a few days and even purchased a fishing license, all the while he was studying the landscape. On June 8, 2011, he felt prepared and organized. He retrieved his kill kit from where he had buried it 2 years prior and went to the house he had identified in nearby Essex, Vermont. It was a secluded home with no dogs or children, and neighbors was sufficiently far away so they could hear nothing. He could get in and out easily, and they had a car. It seemed like the home of an elder couple he had quickly overpowered. That he would be able to quickly overpower. So late at night, Keyes removed a fan from the garage window and hid inside. Keyes cut the phone lines to prevent any calls for help, but also to disable any security alarms that might be active, and waited for a couple hours before striking. Using a crowbar from the garage and armed with the kill kit gun, Keys broke a window that led from the garage into the home and gained entry, while Bill and Lorraine was quietly asleep. Wearing a headlamp to see in the dark home, Keys blitz attacked the couriers in their bed. He subdued them before they realized what was happening to them. But binding each with zip ties, he led them to their own car and drove them to an abandoned farmhouse Keys had located. While Keys secured Bill to a stool in the basement of the decapitated, the broken down home. Why can't I say that? They're home. Lorraine managed to escape from the car where she had been left, but Keys caught the terrified woman, tackling her to the ground, and dragging her back to the home. Once again in control, Keys shot the frantic Bill with the silenced gun in the basement. This was his only murder by gunfire, and Keys stated he lost his compassion with the uncooperative Bill. Upstairs, Keys raped Lorraine before strangling her to death, which I think that was probably his main motive, rape. He just don't go around killing everybody for the sake of it. But maybe he did. But Keys cleaned up the area. He closed the carriers, doused the carriers in drain cleaner, and wrapped both bodies in dark garbage bags. He then buried them under refuse in the basement. Keys would abandon the carrier's car in the Lowe's parking lot. Someone did spot Keys driving the carrier's car, but the sketch was generated yielded no new leads, which does not look like this guy at all if you ever seen the sketch. He made his way back to his rental vehicle and continued driving. Keys stopped at a reservoir in Parrishville, New York, in which he disposed his gun and silencer before driving on to Maine. On the return through Vermont a few days later, Keys would see crime tape around the carrier's home and missing posters throughout the town. So they're on to it. They knew what's up. Keys explained that his original plan for Vermont was a targeted church. He thought he might place his victims sitting in pews for the congregation to find, or perhaps burn the church down with the victims inside. But ultimately, he liked his victims to remain unfound. To prove to the FBI he indeed killed the couriers, Keys told them where to find Lorraine's handgun, which police had never revealed was missing, as well as its make and model, a Ruger Stubbnose 38. He noted that while he took Lorraine's purse, he left Bill's wallet and other details only the killer would know. And he provided the address of the abandoned farmhouse where the couriers' bodies should be found. Police worked quietly to verify Key's story. They recovered both guns and raced to the farmhouse. But the farmhouse was gone. They had demolished it in the time since the murder, and most of the property was cleared. Though the workers who cleared the property say there was a foul stench of decay when the basement was raised, none were concerned, dismissing it as remains left by hunters. Hunting was, prevalent at the area. There's a lot of hunting going on, so it could have just been that. Keys laughed at this information. He said, "I had no idea." The bodies of Bill and Lorraine were not there. Presumable and unwittingly, they had been taken to the local landfill, with the rest of the debris from the house. Authorities scoured the landfill for more than 12 weeks, sifting through over 10 tons of trash, but they were never located. On July 20, 2012, a leak was made. A leak was made to local news in Vermont. Israel King's name was linked to the disappearance of the couriers and to the murder of Samantha Koenig. Of course, made Keys furious about this once he learned and shut down his core requirement violated. Keys wouldn't cooperate freely any longer. Everybody continued to push Keys as they scrambled to rebuild their relationship with him. Keys was fighting to maintain control of the process. Like I said, he just main thing is just control. You never let them know they have any control of what's going on. He wanted to remain control of the situation. He tossed he teased that there were more bodies in his wake, but he refused to reveal more than vague details. Keys eventually told investigators his first murder occurred sometime in mid to late 2001, but gave little information about the victim or possible location. Authorities have been tracing Key's movements, knowing he frequently took trips to commit crimes. They knew Keyes had enlisted in the Army. This is what part I thought was fascinating about the whole case. July 9th, 1998, he traveled to New Jersey. He was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, which I was too, Fort Lewis, Washington, and in Sinai, Egypt. I bet you he was in the same camp as me, South Camp, right there in Sharm el Sheikh, with the National Forward Observation Center. It's just a peacekeeping mission between Egypt and Israel. Make sure just monitor, make sure that everybody's found doing what they're supposed to do. But yeah, Keyes was adamant that he committed no crimes while he was enlisted. Keyes settled in Nia Bay, Washington, with his pregnant girlfriend after his discharge in July of 2001. Keyes also admitted to his second and third murders within a few months of his first attack. He said he killed a couple and buried them out in a forest near a valley. Around these first murders, Keyes became a father to a little girl. He was working as a contractor and developer and is developing a solid reputation as a skilled laborer. Keyes intimated initially that he killed two more people after around Washington State, disposing them in a lake before he decided to start a new life with his daughter away from her drug and alcohol addicted mother. In March of 2007, he relocated with the girl to Anchorage, Alaska, and set up his own contracting business, Keyes Contracting. Keyes also continued his murder vacations, going overseas occasionally, and he began to rob banks to supplement his income and travel expenses, as well as occasional arson, just for the Keys. Just for the Keys, and the FBI would continue their bargaining. They asked for more information, though, through November 12th. Keys revealed pieces of information for them to chase in exchange for a little luxuries like cigars and, of course, Americanos again. Keys admitted to the FBI that only one other of his victim bodies were ever recovered. He would not say if this was a man or a woman or even a general location, only that he staged the body to look like death was an accident, and authorities did in fact rule the victim died accidentally. The victim has never been identified. Showing a rare moment of embarrassment, Keyes confirmed that he raped both women and men, though he refused to identify the victims. Next, Keyes gave one more vague description of a murder. In 2009, Keyes traveled to the East Coast under the guise of visiting family. He abducted a woman there, drove with her to property he owned in New York, killed her, and buried her body near Tupper Lake in New York. The FBI had photos of missing persons that they conceded with some of Key's travels that lined up with him. They began to show the images, and one made Keyes pause. When shown a photo of Deborah Fieldman, Keyes stated that he was not ready to talk about her yet. The 49-year-old woman was known as a drug addict when she vanished around April 8, 2009, in New Jersey. The attorneys have been working for months to solidify a plea agreement that would guarantee Keyes the death sentence that he demanded. He was still after the death. He wanted to die. Keyes was increasingly frustrated by how long the deal had taken to arrange, but using the murders of the couriers is as an aggravating factor, they were able to charge Keyes with capital murder for Samantha's death. It was now late November. They hoped to sign a deal in December 2012 at the Anchorage Correctional Complex where Keyes was being held. Although he had been allowed to use electric razors, Keyes was mistakenly given a disposable razor. In early morning of Sunday, December 2nd, 2012, a prison guard making normal rounds spotted a pool of blood in Keyes' cell. The guard immediately called for help. Keyes appeared to be sleeping to the guard, who checked on him during the night, pulling back the blankets from the prison cot. The guards found Israel Keyes unresponsive. He was lying face down, his arms folded under his chest, covered in blood and already stiff. At 6:13 a.m., Keyes officially pronounced dead. He was in charge of his own destiny. If they weren't going to kill him, he was killing himself, and he made sure that he died. It was evident that he had clearly collected the blood at first until he grew too weak to delay being discovered. Several cups and milk containers full of his blood was found underneath the cot. Every molecule of the murderer's Keyes was just careful of his own. Let me try to read that again. Every aspect of his murderer's Keyes was very careful of his own as well. He did not want to get caught. He wanted to die. He had slit his wrist with a razor, but also tied a noose of bed sheets around his neck, then looped around his left ankle, which had been bent forward to the back. In the event he lost consciousness, his foot would fall, causing the noose to strangle him. All these actions were performed discreetly underneath his blanket so to raise no alarms. The medical examiner was unable to determine if the blood loss or the strangulation was the ultimate cause. Crumpled in the blood under a cot, a 4-page handwritten suicide note was later found. Noah had to be sent to an FBI laboratory in Virginia to decipher its message through the blood. Keyes offered no apologies or explanations for his crimes. Instead, Keyes left a creepy poem, which I am about to read you. Text and Keyes' suicide note with mistakes. This is what he wrote with mistakes. Where will you be, you clever little worm? If you bleed your host dry, back in your ride. The night is still young. Street lights push back in the black eyed neat rows. Off to a right, a graveyard appears. Lines of stones, body molder below. Turn away quick. Bob your head to the seat as straight through the stop sign you roll. Loaded truck with lights off slam into your broadside. Your flesh smashed as metal explodes. You may have been free. You loved living your life. Fate had its own scheme. Crushed like a bug, you still die. Soon now, you will join those ranks of the dead, and your ashes will be soon will wind will soon blow. Family or friends will shed a few tears, pretend it's off to heaven you go. But in reality is you were just bones and meat, and with your brain died also your soul. Send the dying to the wait for death in the comfort of retirement homes quickly say it's for the best. It's best for you, so their fate you'll not know. Turn a blind eye back to the screen. Shoky reality shows. Stand in front of your mirror and you preen in a plastic castle you'll call home. Land of the free, land of the lie, land of the shame, Americanize. Consume what you don't need. Stars you idolize. Pursue what you met in a dream. Then the American dies. Get in your big car so you can get to work fast on roads made of dinosaur bones. Remember the museum? Go there. Punch in on the clock and sit your ass playing stupid ass games on your phone. Paper on your wall says you got smarts. The test that you took told you so, but you would still crawl like a vermin that you are. Once your precious power grid's blown, land of the free, land of the lie, land of the shame Americanized. Now you that I have you held tight, I will tell you a story. Speak soft in your ear so you know that is true. You, my love, at first sight, and though you're scared to be near me, my words penetrate your thoughts now in an intimate prelude. I looked in your eyes, and they were so dark, warm, and trusting, as though you had not a worry or care. The more guileless the game, the better the potential to fill up with those pools of with your fear. Your face framed in dark curls like a portrait, the sun shone through highlights of red. What color, I wonder, and how straight will I turn, plaster back with the sweet of your blood. The wet lips were a promise of a secret, unspoken, nervous laugh as they burst like a pulse of blood from your throat. There will be no more laughter here. I feel your body tense up, my hands now on your shoulder. Your eyes forget the lady called luck. She does not admire near you. Let me read that again. Forget the lady called luck. She does not admire abide near me, for her powers does extend to those who died. Then it has some stuff that was they didn't know. My pretty captive butterfly, colored wings, my hand smears punishment and violent mephederize. I can't say it. Metamorphorous. Metamorphorous. Well, changes. Emerge my dark moth process. Come often and worship on the altar of flesh. You shudder and try to shrink far from me. I'll have you tied down and begging to become my blah blah sweetie. Don't. It's really probably like my reading of this. Horrible. Okay, talk is over. Words are plaque and weak. Back with action, or it all comes off cheap. Watch close while I work. Now, feel the electric shock. My touch. Open your trembling flower, or your petals I will crush. That was the end of the note. Hopefully you understand that. Just a couple words I kind of went over because some reason I can't have much mouth. But yeah, after Key's death, the FBI reached out to the media with details of his crimes in an effort to identify more victims. They released a detailed timeline of Key's travels in 2013 and still asked the public to contact them if they had any information that would be relevant. I will post I will post that on my social media, the note. So if you didn't understand what I was talking about or understand me with my mush mouth, maybe you can understand that. You can read it and see what the note said. Key's family, and that's Truck Stop Murder Program. I'll give all that information at the end. Key's family braided him quietly and buried him quietly in Deer Park, Washington on December 9, 2012. They made no statement to the press. He is not in a better place. He's in a place of eternal torment. The pastor of the Keys family said, "Was an asshole." You know, Keys was. I know what he did was horrible, but you just don't tell the family that. Hey, your relatives burning in hell right now. You just don't say nothing at all. Keys was an unusual serial killer and criminal in many regards. He did not have a specific victim type, like some killers prefer sex workers, women, or men, but this was a deliberate choice to avoid detection. However, after his own daughter was born, Keys did resolve to never attack children or where children were present. This was his only real criteria. Instead, he would craft a plan and then wait for a victim to come to him. Keys planned his crimes and went to great lengths to avoid detection. Really planned it out with the murder kits and everything. He would often fly into cities, then drive many miles away to commit his crimes in areas where he was unconnected. As with the Curious murders, Keys flew into Chicago before driving almost 1,000 miles to Vermont. He was careful to use cash on his murder trips and would turn off or remove the battery from his cell phones to limit any tracking authorities might try. He used condoms in his rape to limit his DNA and would douse bodies in chemicals to further destroy forensic evidence and to speed decomposition. Key scouted out areas sometimes years in advance and buried his kill kits in preparation. Very little could be linked Keys to his crimes. Keys never intended to get caught. He was angry when he was arrested in Texas, not for getting caught, but because his gun was unloaded and he was not able to have a shootout or shoot himself, unable to shoot himself. He always planned to go out in a blaze of glory. He never intended to be a man that was associated with evil. He executed his crime so carefully that to date only one body has ever been recovered that had been conclusively identified as one of his victims. And Samantha was only recovered because Keys told authorities exactly where to look. Keys was caught because he fell into the same traps for which he criticized other serial killers. For Keys grew too confident, he began enjoying following the media coverage around his crimes. The time between his crimes grew shorter and shorter. He began taking greater risks, and ultimately he broke his own cardinal rule. He struck near home. In the years before the abduction, and murder of Samantha Koenig. Keyes was getting sloppy. Keyes admitted to the FBI during the interview that in March of 2011, he rode his bike out to Point Warvison Park, War Anzac Park in West Anchorage. There, he intended to shoot a couple that was sitting in their car in a sniper style. He's on top of a mountain or a hill or something. Shoot him. He hid in the woods, ready to fire upon the couple when an Anchorage police cruiser pulled up into the scene. Keyes was ready to kill the officer as well until a backup unit arrived moments later. Now the scenario was progress, per, too much for him, and Keyes relented. Recognizing the risk, there's another word, but I'm not going to say it. Recognizing the risk he had been able to take, Keyes decided to purchase a police scanner. He wasn't ready to get caught. I almost got myself in a lot of trouble on that one, Keyes would tell authorities. The FBI melted me, connected 11 victims to Keyes, but the possible remains were much more. He could have killed a lot more than that, but they were only able to get him for 11. But only Keyes knew the true extent of his crimes. So there you go. There is the story of Israel Keyes out of Lufkin, Texas, where I've stopped a few times. That is like 30 minutes north of where I live at. And if you like that, awesome. If you didn't like that, sorry. I know I must do a few words here and there. But if you did like it, always rate and review anywhere where you listen to it, where you listen to it now. Also share with the friends. Let's build this up. And also, don't forget, I am going to be at the True Crime Podcast, the Paranormal Festival in Austin on August 25th through 27th, and where I will be doing a live show I just learned, which I'm super excited about. I'll be talking about the human slavery, trafficking, how it's still a thing, how truckers against trafficking really stop that. I will talk about that and maybe talk about, oh, well, not maybe, I will talk about some survivors that survived these situations. But yeah, and always when I drop these episodes, I put pictures and everything on my social media pages. Also, a map of the truck stop where it's at. So if you ever, so you can see the layout. But yeah, my Facebook group is Truck Stop Murder and True Crime. You could join me there or follow me on Instagram at Truck Stop Murder, Twitter at Truck Murder. Also on YouTube, Truck Stop Murder True Crime. I'm trying to build up that channel so I can go live by 1,000 subscribers. So please help me achieve that goal. And always there's Patreon and PayPal. My email is truckstopmurder@gmail.com. So hopefully everybody will enjoy your week. And like I always say, you can't fix stupid, but you can sure numb it with a 2x4. I'm out of here. But before I do, let me tell you, this episode was written and researched by Amy Vandervort-Clark, and it's from the app Murder Minute, where you could go there and enjoy all kinds of stories like this that I just read you. So there you go. Check it out.